Hey everyone, back at it out here in the hangar. And so a lot has been going on since my last video. I lost some footage, so I wasn't able to make a video because I'm an idiot. But gosh, what has changed? So if you can see right here in the background, I'm working, I'm doing the stuff, and there's a lot of kind of overhead footage of me working, and that's been a lot of what I've been doing. I think I've been focusing way too much on trying to film every little thing instead of kind of doing this sort of thing, you know, filming from high while I do the work and then just talk to myself or talk overlay like this. Excuse me. I have gotten the rudder pedals in. As you can see, they're all in, and I've got the these hoses that are in there for the brake lines, but I see a lot of other people use braided metal lines for everything instead of using the two main braided lines and then a bunch of, you know, plastic lines going back and forth. And I'm thinking about swapping those to use braided lines. I have to figure out where to get those. I'm sure there's some good places to get them. If you know of a good place to get those, comment down below and let me know. But that's, I mean, there's probably nothing wrong with those plastic lines. They probably work just fine and will work forever, but it just, the braided feels better, you know? But that means I would have to replace both the line and the fixture where it plugs into. So, you know, one of those things. Then let's see. I have worked on getting more of the control surfaces in. A lot of the hard rods that, you know, everything is done with tubes as opposed to cables, or well, mostly there are a couple cables in this plane, but those hard tubes are all in down the center channel and they work just fine. I put one in, so there's actually three. There's one in the very far front, there's a middle one, there's one in the back. And the one in the very far front I had put in backwards because, again, I'm a moron. The only difference between them, I mean, they look like just a hard rod with, you know, a link on either end. The difference is the one on the one end is slightly bigger with it's got a hole drilled in it, and it's for a number 4 as opposed to a number 3. And unfortunately you have to take them all out to get it in. It's like it's an event to put it in. So yeah, make sure you put it in correctly. But I got that in, got that all done, and so now you can see I have the rudder, the stick in. The stick is so you can actually sit in the plane and control everything. And it's almost time for airplane noises, but not quite yet. Not quite yet. But got that done, and I'm very happy with how all of that came out. And that's kind of all I've been doing. I mean, I say all, it's a lot. There's a lot, but yeah, it's good. We're in a good place. I'm looking forward to the next thing that I'm working on, which is all of the front stuff on the front of the airplane, right in front of the pilot, the console and everything else. So that's what I'm working on right now. Down in the center channel, one thing is the fuel flow sensor. I don't have that down there right now, and I had been thinking about moving that to someplace else on the plane. And I asked somebody else, because I saw somebody on Facebook posted their picture, and it was like, hey, you don't have yours in there either, because I mean, I guess great minds think alike. They said that they're putting theirs someplace else, and I was like, that's what I was thinking too. So I'm glad that kind of validated my thought process. So gonna do that. I haven't actually ordered it yet either, so there's that. But getting ready to close all that stuff up and get it done, because some of the next stuff that's coming is I have to work on the throttle quadrant, which is in a different spot on my plane. On my plane, it's going to be on the center console as opposed to up, you know, more forward. So I've got to kind of plan out how I'm going to rig that up and make that work. And part of that is closing everything up and getting everything mounted. So that's what's going on. That's where I'm at. I have a ton still to do. Still have the top to work on. Not really looking forward to that. I've heard a lot of people have just one nightmare story after another working on the top, but eesh. Anyways, so I've rattled. Now I'm going to get a little more detail and show you exactly what I was talking about in each case. So this is what I'm talking about, these plastic cables. I'm sure they work just fine. I mean, they're designed to be high pressure brake lines and all that, but this braided metal cable just makes me much happier. And I don't know what the cost is to replace these plastic guys with these. It can't be that much. And I'm willing to bet somewhere out there, you can already buy a replacement to replace all of these. But there's basically two that run from cylinders over to cylinders, and there's two that run from here to the reservoir, which is out here. So I think that's what I want to do. I want to replace those. I just have to find them. So that's done there. Other than that, these stock brakes, or stock pedals rather, work just great. There are some really nice aftermarket pedals out there, but I didn't go that route, and I'm okay with these. So regarding the elevator push rod, which is this guy right here, this is the one I said I installed backwards, but there's this one, and then if we slide down, you can see it hits this crank, whatever, to kind of change the direction upwards by a few degrees. And this one's bigger and beefier, and then that one comes all the way back to here, and the one I was pointing at is down here, and then you've got this bell crank which goes here all the way into the back of the plane to do the elevators. Well, this one, you've got a hole right here. My finger's in the way. It's tight in there. There's a lot going on, but there's a hole right here that you have to drill because this assembly has a certain size, a number 4 bolt that goes through, and then back here it's a number 3 down in there. So it's this one has to be on a certain way, and unfortunately these holes are, especially that hole, is really small and tight, and so you have to basically undo this whole assembly and remove it to get that push rod out, to then unbolt this to get that push rod out, just so I could flip it around and put it all back in and reassemble everything. And what a colossal pain in the butt that was. The one question I have is this hole and what it's for. You can see on the instructions, they talk about this wire, safety wire they've got here. And I don't really know, I don't know what the point of that is. I mean, it's got a very heavy duty bolt that goes through here and through there. I don't know why this safety wire is here. And if you know what this safety wire is about, please tell me. I mean, obviously it's for safety, but I don't see why this one has it, but none of the others do. So the next thing I want to talk to is the control stick base pivot tube. It's kind of a mouthful. So that's this part right down here. So the control stick, which is all of this, you can see it plugs into this base part right here, which it gives you the linkage between both control sticks. So when you move one, they both move, right? That's the whole idea here. Well, this base part, this down here, this bottom part, you've got this tube, and inside of here there's a brass fitting, and they go between this piece, which does the work of connecting to the aft part of the airplane. And I'll tell you, it sucked getting this cut down to the right size to fit inside here. You have to remove a lot of material off either end of this tube using your grinder to actually get it to a point where when you put the brass tube in, it is slightly larger than this piece, but fits within this piece. Like, that took a lot of effort, and I had to take it apart and do it a number of times to get it to the point where it was so, sloppy loose that it would just kind of fall, and now it's perfect. That took a long time, just because there's just a lot of shaping of material and getting it to a point where it wasn't binding, because otherwise it was binding, and it felt like it was real stiff. And I don't want these controls to be stiff. You want to be able to feel what the airplane's doing, and if the controls are super stiff, then that's not going to work. So got that done. Finally, just know you are going to have to remove material. That's just going to have to be a thing, or at least I did. Now, This piece is pretty heavily powder coated, as is this piece, but when you take the edges off of this piece, then obviously you're removing all the powder coating, but there's still a lot of powder coating on the inside of this one. And so that's the thing I had to do is get in there and get a lot of that powder coating off, but I still had to basically cut the hell out of this to get that to fit in there correctly so that it would move correctly. And I know some of you are probably going to complain about me removing any powder coating. It's fine. It's going to be fine. In that one little spot, it's not going to be a big deal. It was just so I can get the stuff in there. So I'm happy how it came out, but it did take a long time. And so that's a thing that you're just going to have fun with. So the next thing I have to do is I have to create or fabricate a measuring jig so that I can make sure that the push rod ends, the number 4 and the number 3 on that forwardmost push rod, so that I can make sure they are the correct length out, so that when the stick is in a neutral state, the elevator. Jesus, my brain. The elevator is at the right place. Because, I mean, I imagine just a couple threads one way or the other, and it's going to be too high or too low if you have the stick in a neutral state. So you kind of get you there by creating a jig that you'll put in there, you'll get it all measured correctly, and then you'll go and get them all to where they're supposed to be. And then once you put the plane all together finally, then you'll make the final adjustments up or down based on where you want neutral to be. So that's something that I'm working on right now. And of course, that's the thing that you do before you put that safety wire in, which I'm still wondering what the point of that safety wire is, because literally there's, 8 of those across the whole thing, but you only have the safety wire in one place, which is just weird to me. But then after that, once I get that done, we move over to the flap control system, which I'm looking forward to working on. And yeah, that's a thing. So after that, the other thing I want to really work on, and I want to do this soon, is, and I know I've been saying this for literally 2 years, but I want to work on finally closing up the fuel tank for this other wing. So I've got my other wing completed and I'm happy with where that's at, but I want to finish this damn one so I can finally get the other zip tip put on and make my zip tips happy and complete, because they're awesome, right? I mean, why wouldn't I? And I mean, it just needs to be done. You know, this stuff, I've been putting stuff off because of one reason or another, but it's time to do this. So I've got to finish the fuel tank. Now I have a leak in that fuel tank, and leaks suck. And I keep putting off fixing it because it sucks. I've got here on this, I'm gonna show it to you. You can see I've got it stuck over here below my green screen even. And the fuel tank that I need to work on has a leak right here. And here's the issue. That's outside the damn fuel tank. So it's like, how is that hole leaking? But it is. Water's coming out of there. And so that means most likely, and I don't even know if you'll be able to see down in here, but up under here, I've got a leak. Even though there's a ton of Pro Seal up in there, basically, I've got to get in there, I've got to remove the Pro Seal, it's up in there, and then get in there and put a new bead of Pro Seal all around the inside of there, and that's just painful suck, and I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and well, I can't put that off anymore. I've got to get that done. And so I think that is my mission over the course of the next 30 days, is to get that finally done so I can finish this damn wing. So that's where I'm at on that, and I'm going to work on that over the course of the next 30 days or so, which means I'm putting on hold the fuselage so that I can go back to something I should have done a year ago. So that's where I'm at there. So regarding everything else that is going on, it is Halloween. So happy Halloween, everyone. It used to be one of my favorite holidays. In fact, here's a picture that my wife will murder me for, but that is her and I winning a Halloween costume several years ago. One of those things where we just love doing goofy stuff. Where we live, there are no kids where we are, and we are at the absolute top of a mountain. So like if someone hiked up our mountain to get a to get some, trick or treat candy, whatnot. They deserve a ham or something, right? It's a hoof, but we never get anyone up there, and that's, it is what it is. There's also, it's like a retirement community. I mean, we are the youngest people in there in that community by like 20 years. But I've talked to some people before about motivation and how you stay motivated, and it's tough. I'm not real motivated lately. My mission has changed. Basically, I have no reason to fly back to Texas at all. And other than just wanting to get it done because it's something I started, so I want to finish it. But I mean, another aspect of motivation is figuring out how to afford the engine. A IO 540 right now is like 60 grand or something like that. And it's like, I don't know how, or 50s, whatever. It's not cheap. I don't know how I'm going to come up with that. I mean, that's a lot for me. A lot of people think if you have a plane, you must be rich. Well, no. I've also been studying up on my ground school and all that, and trying to get in the mood to get back in the air. I come out every week, usually twice a week actually, and start up my little Piper and just kind of sit inside there listening to the air, whatever traffic's on the airport, letting it run, make sure it's in good condition so it doesn't just sit there and die. But I haven't really been interested in going up and flying. I'm not sure what that's about. I just haven't been interested. So I'm hoping that I'll figure out why that's a thing and get it sorted. But right now, I've not been really all that keen on flying. And I don't know. I feel like in a weird way, some of these videos has done that. I'm focusing so much on making video and content for you guys that I'm not actually focusing on this. And so part of me thinks that maybe I need to rethink the whole video thing. But at the same time, I like making the videos, but yeah, I gotta find a happy medium. But that's why there's been less and less videos. It's the video thing is killing me. It's putting way too much work in videos and less work on the plane. Money is the big one though, is figuring out how to afford the next kit piece. I don't know how I'm going to do it. So I'm just working on that. Part of me thinks I need to get, just pause on this, fly the Piper for a little while just to get good and happy in the air, and then sell the damn thing to get the money to buy the engine and the firewall forward kit, which are still, those are the two kits I need. Firewall forward's like 17 grand, and it has a 6-month lead time, I think, right now. And then of course, $50,000 to $60,000 for the engine. It's going to happen. I just don't know how. My wife and I have talked about moving. We've talked very seriously about moving the area where we live and going someplace else, which means I have to think very hard about what's going to happen with this. I've got to find a hangar that I can work out of, or at least if we move, find a big enough garage that I can work out of. So that's something else we're kicking around. So it's been impactful on my motivation, but gonna keep working on it anyway. So, all right, back to it. So I have gone through and continued to prep my tank. So this is the tank that I said I had to, fix a leak, and I know where the leak is. I went down deep inside and used a Dremel with this wire brush on it, and I hesitate to touch it because it seems like every time I touch this thing I jam a piece of wire in my finger. But I've got a bunch of these wire brush Dremels, and I had one of the little teeny Dremels, not this big one, but I had a smaller one, like a little pen one, and it was nowhere near enough torque to use it, so I had to just go back to this guy. But this is really big and beefy to kind of get up in there. It was real awkward, but I did the work. Got it all cleaned out as best I could, and there's a whole seam, like right here. If you look, you can see that, while it's not perfectly clean, it's cleaner, and there's a whole connection, seam between these two pieces of metal that I didn't get any Pro Seal on at all, and I don't know how I did that. Whoops, that's probably why it's leaking. So even though the leak is really tiny, it's just a little teeny dribble, so it's close, but I'm going to go through, I'm going to put all that Pro Seal in there. I got some new Pro Seal. I had to order some because I had one of these, but it was expired, so I threw that away and bought another one. So here's this one. I've got 2 more over there. I've actually prepped the tank. So I've got like tape in here, and I've gone and I've scuffed up all the area where the Pro Seal will go when I put the back on. So at least I'm getting it to the point where it's there. So gonna put the Pro Seal in. Gonna use, someone had mentioned, you know, squirting the Pro Seal into a baggie and then just using that like a cake decorator. I've tried that before. Really, it's just a pain in the ass. I mean, this stuff is not fun to work with, really. But I'm gonna do the deed. It's gonna be a stinky Pro Seal day. And then hopefully it'll seal this time and I won't have this issue anymore. With that, I've got one last question to answer. I've actually had this question a number of times, and it's basically, holy crap, you started this as a 2-year project, you're on year 6. Do you still hate it, love it, whatever? The answer is I still love it. I still really enjoy this coming out here and building. I will say that after a while, this filming thing does get a little tedious. You know, I started this filming stuff not for you guys, but for me, just as a way to document this whole journey. And it has kind of grown to be more than that. And so sometimes I really don't want to do it, but I'm still doing it. So do I regret anything? I wish it was faster. I wish I could go faster. I mean, the big issue is life, right? I mean, I work full-time, more than full-time. And so I don't have always a lot of time to come out here. My mission has kind of changed, and I think I talked about that earlier. So some of the incentive to fly has kind of gone away, but to that end, I have been working on getting back in the air. It's like, you know what? No, screw this. I'm going to do it. And I went to my doctor just today, in fact, to get my medical redone, and she wouldn't do it. We have an aviation ME or whatever it is here, and she's a super nice lady, but she's so busy. You can't get in there. I mean, it's impossible. I've got an appointment with her, but it's like a month out. And so I thought, I'll just try my doctor. So I went to my doctor, and she took one look at all the forms and went, no. She wouldn't do it. Even though it's just basic med. She's like, I don't know what this is. I'm like, the instructions are right there. So I may try a couple others to see if I can get them before my ME, but it comes available, so we'll see. But been trying to get that. Going back all over all my ground school stuff because I got to redo that. I've just got to, but I'm doing it. It's on my list of stuff to do, and I'm actually taking steps to do it. So we're gonna do it. But that's where I'm at on this. This is good. The plane itself is good. Worked on the flaps, actuators, and the control surfaces or control systems rather down there. Got that going in a good place, and I think this has been actually a very productive month. A lot of this internal gut stuff, which is a little scary for me, is actually kind of coming together nicely. So anyways, guys, that's where I'm gonna end this one. Thanks a bunch. I'll see you next time.